Yeah, hello guys. So we have gone to the HTML part. So what happens is the HTML provides the structure of the HTML page, and and the CSS part deals with the styling. So the HTML won't apply the styling to the HTML page, but the CSS will apply the styling like color, background color, whatever. And what will JavaScript do? It will add functionality to the HTML page. Okay. So as we have covered the HTML part yesterday, so today we will proceed with the CSS. So what is CSS? So CSS is, as I said, it is used to style the web page. And what are its advantages? Why do we use CSS? It is reusable. How it is reusable, we'll see today. Okay, and yeah, it is easier to maintain. If we there are actually different ways to write CSS. So if we write the CSS in a proper way, it makes the HTML code cleaner. Okay, so let's go for the styling. So how do we add CSS to HTML files, web pages? So first thing is there are three ways to add CSS to a web page. Okay, so in the interview, people may ask what are in how many ways we can add CSS to a web page. So what we will say in that, we'll say that we can add CSS in three ways. The first one is, it is called inline CSS or inline styling. Okay, that is the most basic. So you have to remember these 3 points. Okay, first thing is we add CSS by using inline styling. Second one is by using internal style sheet. Okay, and the third one is external style sheet. Okay, so we'll go through them one by one. So let's start with the most basic one, that is the inline styling. Okay, so okay. So CSS allows you to add style to an HTML web page. Okay, that is color, size, or positioning. We'll see all these things. So in inline styling, what do we do? Wait, let me go to the let's create a file and I'll show you. Okay, we have a h1 tag, hello will be written, and then if we write the inline style for this, it will be, the syntax is style is equal to, suppose for the h1 tag we want to make the font color yellow. Okay, so color yellow. Okay, so what happens when we run this? We have a h1 tag which has font color yellow. So this is how we use inline styling. Okay, now what if we want to add more than one style to the same element? So what we'll do, we have to end this statement with a semicolon and then write the other styles, like okay, background color, background color, suppose green, and then we will again end the statement with a semicolon. We save it, we run it. Okay, so this is called inline styling. So now is there anything? This is very easy. We can add anything. We can add height, width, everything, border. Okay, so this is the most basic one. Now we will go to the internal style sheet, the second method. Okay, so in internal style sheet, what happens? There are two aspects of to adding style to a web page via CSS. So for that, what do we need? We need two things. First thing is the declaration and the selector. So what are these things? Let's see. Declaration means this part, whatever we wrote here, color yellow, background color green. So this is called declaration. So declaration will always be there for styling, but this is inline styling, so we already know to which element we are applying the styles, isn't it? So when I'm writing h1 this thing, so it is applying the color yellow and background color green to h1 tag, isn't it? If I have h2 and here world and here red and here light blue, sorry. So what happens here? We have another h1 tag, h2 tag, which is having these styles. So now in this inline styling, there is no problem actually. Whatever the declarations we are giving, what it is happening, this is applied to the h1 tag, h1 element, and this color red and background color light blue is applied to the h2 tag. But when we are writing uh, the styles in internal style sheet, what happens? We have to specify the selector also. That means to which element we will apply the styles. Okay, so how do we write the internal style sheet? So for that, in the HTML tag, we know there is a head tag, isn't it? We have a head tag, we have a body tag. Inside the head tag, we'll create another tag, that is style. Okay, so here we will write the styles for the whole page. Okay, whatever styles we will write in this style tag, it will be applied to the whole document. Okay, so if the file inline styling is okay, but when we have a lot of elements like h1 h2 p, many are there, and we want to apply styles to all of them, then what happens? If we write the inline style like this in every element, it looks clumsy, it doesn't look good, people will not be able to understand what is going on. Okay, so that's why what we do, we separate the styles and put it in the style tag. This is known as internal style sheet. Okay, so we'll see how we apply the style sheet. Okay. So as we said, there are two things. First thing is declaration and then the selector for internal style sheet. Okay, for inline style sheet, we don't need the selector because it's already on that particular element, isn't it? So here we'll see. So this way we have the declaration. Okay, we write the declaration like this. First, the selector. Suppose we want to change the h1 tag. In the h1, we'll have the selector like this, and then we'll write the styles. So for the h1 tag, we want to apply some what is called suppose, yeah, font size. We can go for font size. So font size will be, I'll increase it. So by default the font size of all the elements, whatever it is, h1 h2 p, it is by default it is 16 px. Okay. So now we will increase the font size. Suppose we want 32 px. So in this this is called block of code, right? In this block of code, what is there? First thing is the h1. This h1 is the selector. And what about this part? This is the declaration. Okay, we have two things, declaration and selector. So these two things are always important. So in the h1 we are giving font size 32 px. See, already these styles are applied, color yellow and background green is already there, but we want to add some extra style. So what we did, we wrote like this. So let's see what happens. Okay. Actually the font size of h1 was 32 px, that's why it didn't work. So when we wrote 42 px, so the font size of the hello increased. Okay, so this is known as internal style sheet. Now there are some things you need to understand, so we'll add some more elements. Okay. Yeah, whatever I have written here in the h1, this thing will be applied to only h1, isn't it? H1 is the selector, so it will select which element to apply the styles. So now I have another p. We'll see, that is later part. Okay, now go for the basic part. So there was a cat, there is a dog, and then we can have some one more p. Okay, so now we'll we'll go through some things like id and class. Okay, so do you guys know what is id and class? So we'll go through it. id and class are used to apply styles. How to say, suppose a style needs to be applied to many elements. Okay, and in that situation what we'll do, suppose I have h1 h2 p3 5 elements are there, and I want all the elements to have font color red. Okay, I want the color red. Then if I write style equal to color red like this 5 times, it doesn't look good, isn't it? So what we can do is we can directly write here that make all the things color to red. So for example, if I want to make all the p tags, there was a cat, there is a dog, so let's save this, let's see once. Okay, there are 3 p tags, p elements. There was a cat, there is a dog, and animal and birds. So now I want all these 3 lines to have font color blue. Okay, so in that situation what I can do, the all the 3 elements are p, isn't it? So what I can do is here I will write p, and then I'll write here I can write here color blue. So what will happen now, all the p tag font color change to blue. Okay, now suppose I have more p tags. suppose I have 6 p tags. Now I want only the first 3 p tags to be blue and the next p tags to be yellow. Okay, so what we have done from here, what this is doing, this is making all the p tags blue, isn't it? But we don't want like that. We want the first 3 p tags to be blue and the next 3 p tags to be yellow. Then what we'll do, then this id and class comes. Okay, so first we'll go with the class, what is class, and then we'll go to id. Okay, so what we can do is, classes are used when we want a common style to all the elements. Okay, so if we want for the first 3 p elements the font color blue, what we can do is we can add a class. Class, it is written like this, class is an attribute. So whatever this red things come in this notepad plus plus, whatever you see that is red color, that is attribute. Okay, style is coming in red, isn't it? That is called attribute. Class is attribute. So we can give, okay, so we can give any name to a class. Suppose we will give font blue. We gave the class name font blue. Okay, okay, so what we have to do, we have to apply this class. It is not fixed that you have to write font blue or something. You can write fb, you can write blue, anything. Okay, so we will apply this class to in all the elements where we want the blue color font. Okay, in these 3 classes, in these 3 ap elements we want the font blue, isn't it? In the other we don't want it. So what we'll do, we'll change this selector. We won't write p, because if we write p, what happens, all the elements are becoming blue. So here we will write dot font blue. So what is this dot font blue? That is this color, this class. Okay, like h1 was the selector, that means this font size 42px was applied to h1, isn't it? In the same way, this color blue is applied where? It is applied to all the classes, all the elements which has class font blue. Okay, so when we add a class in the elements, we have to write the class name here along with a dot. Okay, so whenever we write this dot in front of something, this program thing understands that it is a class. Okay, so now let's see what happens. You see, the first 3 lines got converted to blue font color and the next are not blue. Okay, so what can we do to make these 3 elements font color yellow? First thing we'll add the class. So we'll go class equal to font, suppose yellow. Okay, and if we check it, oh, we didn't add it here, so it will be font yellow color. Okay, so the next are yellow now. Okay, so this is called class. So if I have a HTML page and I want to apply the same style to more than one element, then what we'll do, we'll apply the same class to all the elements. Suppose if I want it to be underlined or bold, if I want bold in all the headings, or suppose the bold in all the span tags, what I'll do, in all the span tags I will apply the class equal to bold, suppose, and then we'll change the styling in the style tag. We'll start with the dot bold, that is dot is important. Okay, that is, you have to remember it, that dot means class. For id it will be different, it will be hash. We'll see that now. So now it's okay. So now we did something where we added the styles to more than one element. Now if suppose the situation is I don't want all the first three p tags are blue and the next p tags are yellow. Suppose these birds I want it to be red. Okay, what is happening here? It is blue, it is yellow, and but I want these birds to be red. Okay, so what I can do here, it is like it is a unique, we want to apply the styles to a unique element. We don't want the style to be present in other uh, elements. So what I can do, I will apply here, instead of class I will write id and font red, suppose. Okay, so how do we write the id here? Id is always used for unique things, id is only used for a single element. Okay, suppose I have 100 elements on the page, and then what I will do, I will in that 100 elements I want one p tag to be red. Okay, I will apply that id equal to red to only that element. I won't apply id equal to red to other element. If I want the style to be present in more than one element, then we'll use class. Okay, instead of id I will use class. So hash will write font red and color red. So if you see, the words became red. Okay, any doubts till now? Okay, so we saw this part. The declaration part looks like this, and next thing is the selector. Okay, so we have different selectors like body. What is the body selector? If we use here, we have used h1 font blue. These are selecting the h1 and font blue class, font yellow class, font red id, isn't it? But if we want to apply some style to the whole document, that is the whole body, then we will write body tag, and then we'll apply the styles here. Suppose background color light green. Okay, so what happens here, the whole document got selected and then the background color light green was applied. Okay, and then we have one more selector, that is the universal selector. So in the universal selector, what will happen, universal selector is the star asterisk, whatever we call. So when we write asterisk, what is the meaning of this? It means whatever styles we write inside this asterisk part, it will be applied to the whole document. When we are writing body, it is not applying to the whole document, isn't it? See, we are writing background color light green. That means it is applied to the body tag, not individually, isn't it? Background color light green was applied to the body, not to the h1 tag not to the h2 tag, isn't it? It was applied to the body. But if we write something here, it will be applied to all the elements in the page, like h1, h2, p, everything, whatever is there. Okay, so if I write here font weight, there is one property. See, these are all font size, color, background color. These are known as css properties. Okay, there are more than 100 css properties are there. Okay, we don't need to learn everything, but the basics we should know, because the basics are needed for the development. So what we can do is, yeah, so there is a property called font weight. So in this font weight we have one more thing. This whole thing is known as property. Okay, and then this part is called value. Okay, this is called the css property font weight, and whatever we write here, it is called the value. So in this styling, what is the property used? Font size. What is the value used? 42px. Okay, so this font size will always have values which have px, em, rem, they're like this. In the same way, font weight will have value like bold. Okay, so what it will do, it will make the font bold. Okay, we write b tag, isn't it? In the b tag, whatever happens, it will happen here. So now if I check, all the words became bold. Did you see? Isn't it? It applied to the whole document. It applied to every element of the whole document. It is not like the body tag. Okay, so these are some of the selectors. Okay, now we'll go to the next part. So this is known as the universal selector or wildcard selector. Okay, it selects all elements on a page and can be used. Okay, we'll see the combination now, how this thing happens. So now we'll go to a topic called grouping selectors. Okay, now in this page we want the h1 and h2 to have font color black, and the other things I don't want to change. Okay, only I want to change the h1 and h2. All the p tags I don't want to change. So for that, what I will do, we will write something like h1 comma h2, and in that I will write color black. Okay, so if I write like that, what happens, you'll see. Okay, I have to remove this part. I changed the style, but it didn't affect. Why didn't affect? We'll come to that. Okay, after we learn all the three types. So now, okay, initially we'll remove this. Initially what happens, if we write like this, the hello and world, the font color is already black by default. Okay, we want the h1 and h2 to have color, suppose green. No, that's light green. Okay, so if we make it green, if we write h1 comma h2 color green, what will happen, it will make the font color green. Okay, so what is happening here, when we write like this, it is called grouping the selectors. So when we write like this, what is happening, it is selecting the h1 and h2. So any of these are called the selectors, isn't it? So it is selecting the h1 and h2 and applying the color green to it. Okay, Okay. Okay. So you can practice something now, like create a web page. Okay, take different elements h1, h2, p, span. Okay, you can even have a div and apply different styles to it, and also use this grouping of selectors, and then the universal tag, that is the wildcard selector asterisk, and the body tag. Okay, just do one small thing, just write h1, h2, p, span, 4 tags, and keep 4 p tags and 4 span tags, and apply the class id to the span and p, and the wildcard selector, that is the universal. Okay, do it, and then we'll proceed to. Okay, hello guys, so let's proceed. So till now we have learned about inline styling, internal style sheet, and about class and id. Okay, so and we also saw how the selectors are grouped, isn't it? If we want the styles to be applied to more than one selector, then how to group it. Okay, so we'll go through one more way of selecting things, that is suppose we have nested elements. We have a div tag, inside that we have a h1, p, whatever. Okay, suppose if I want to apply the here we have, here till now we had the p tags like this. Now if I have a div tag, inside this div tag I have a p tag. Okay, in this p I have written some a b c d e f. Okay, now I want to apply some style to this p tag, which is inside div. That means if I have multiple things like this, okay, so now what we have, we have a p tag which is inside a div tag, and I want the all the p's which are inside div tag to have font color, suppose blue, or we can change the color, we can make it red. Okay, I want red font in all those p tags which are inside div tag only, not to the other p tags. Okay, so that means these 3 lines a b c d e f x y z and vlr, we want the font color to be red. So for that what we can do, we have some other kind of selectors. Here we saw if we write h1 comma h2, what does it mean? It will apply the styles to h1 and h2. Okay, so now if I write something like div and then p div space p, the space is important. Okay, div space p, and then if I write color red, or I can use pink. So what will happen here, the text got changed to pink. But how did we select it? We could have used directly class here in the p tags, class equal to font pink, class equal to font pink, class equal to font pink, but we didn't do that. We did it in a different way. So you have to learn all the ways. Okay, so this is one way to select an element and then apply the styles. So what was the situation here? It was the p tag was inside a div tag, so that's why what we did, we wrote div space p and then we wrote color pink. This is known as descendant selector. Okay, what is descendant? There's a father and there's a son. The son is the father's descendant. Okay, in the same way this div tag is called the parent element, isn't it? In the parent element we have a p element which is a child. Okay, so when we write a div space p, it says that all the p which are inside div will be selected. Okay, so this is one way. And then this is one basic thing, and later on we will come to some advanced basic what it is called, advanced selectors. Like we saw div p is there, and then there are a lot of things are there. Okay, we'll see later on. Now descendant selector, we saw this. Okay, okay, we can take another example. They are saying like, you know, ul unordered list. Inside unordered list what do we have? Li, and we have many li's, isn't it? A, B, C and D. Now suppose inside the li again there is a anchor tag. You know anchor tags? Anchor tags are used for linking. Okay, suppose I have anchor tags inside this. So here if I want to apply the styles to the anchor tags using this selector, what will I do? First we need to observe what is the structure, the parent and child. So what is it? Inside ul we have a li, and then inside that li we have a anchor tag. So what I will do, I will write ul space li space a, and in that I will write font style. This is another css property. Okay, font style, suppose italic. You know italic? So if I write like this, what will happen? All the abcd are coming in italic, isn't it? If I write color light green, coming light green. Okay, okay. Okay, so as we have started anchor tag, so let's see some of the there are some things called pseudo class selectors. Okay, what are those pseudo class selectors? Let's see. So now we have 4 anchor tags, A, B, C, D. When I hover over it, okay, so I said whatever comes in red color are attributes. Okay, so in anchor tag we have a attribute that's called href. Okay, href means it is a reference to the location to which it will point when we click on it. Okay, anchor tags are nothing but links, isn't it? So when we click on links, it should go somewhere, so that location is specified in the href. So now we are not going anywhere, so we will just keep it as hash. Okay, okay, so you can see when I point to it, the cursor becomes changed. It becomes a pointer. Okay, so this indicates that it is a anchor tag. Okay, it is a link. So now we'll use some pseudo class selectors. So what are pseudo class selectors? So, and one more thing, you can see in the anchor tags what is happening, there is a underline in it. Can you see it? By default, whenever we are creating anchor tags, an underline is always there. Okay, so suppose if I want to remove that underline, what should I do? First thing, it is inside ul, inside li, inside a, isn't it? We already have that structure here, the selector here. So what we can do, we have a css property called text decoration, text decoration none. Okay, by default what is happening, text decoration underline, that is applied by default. So if we write like this, it will remove the underline. Okay, now we will go for the what it is called, pseudo class selectors. So if you see, there are some pseudo class selectors called link, then visited, then hover, then active. So what are these things? Link is, if we write a colon link, so it will apply the styles to that particular link, to that particular text, when the that anchor tag is not clicked. Okay, if you observe carefully in Google Chrome, in Google, whenever we search something, the tags headings are in blue color, but when we click on it, it becomes purple. Have you seen it? Isn't it? That means the style is applied after it is visited. By default, it is blue in color, but when we visit it, once it is visited, it becomes purple. So what they're doing is, they're giving the blue color in the link, and in the visited they have given the purple. Okay, so that's why when a link is not clicked, it will be blue. That means this link will work. And then when we use this visited tag, visited selector, and then specify some colors, it will be activated to on click. After the click, it will apply those styles. Okay, and then we have hover. On hover also we can hover means, what do you know what is hover? When you hover over, when we put the cursor up on the link, then also we can apply some styles. Okay, so let's see one by one what happens. But there are some rules here. Okay, a hover must be listed after a link and visited. Okay, so the thing is, first we have to specify link. We cannot use hover directly. we'll use link and visited, then hover, and then active must be listed after hover. So link, visited, hover, active. This is the order. Okay. So let's see one by one. A colon link. Okay. A colon link. The font color will be, it is by default what it is green. Okay, I'll make it red for now. I'll remove the color green from here. Okay, color red. A link, and then the next selector, that is a visited. Okay, on visiting it, that means after clicking on it once, the color will change to, suppose, blue. Okay, a link visited, and then hover, a colon hover. So in the hover, I'll make it green, suppose. Okay, and then we have the active. The active you won't be able to observe, but we'll see. It happens for a very small time. Okay, when we click on it and release it, after clicking and in between releasing, that part is known as active. Okay, suppose I'm pressing a button, I'm releasing it later on, so that means that part, for that time when it was pressed, that part is known as active. Okay, so active will put color yellow. Okay, let's save this and check. Okay, so by default the font color is link red. Link is red. Now if the link is visited, the color will become blue. So if I click on A, the links are becoming blue. Okay, I'll put something like Css. So I have visited the first anchor tag, isn't it? That's why it became blue. But the other ones I didn't click, so it didn't become blue. So if I click the D, it will become blue again. See, B and C are not touched till now. So visited is clear. Now we'll go for the hover. Hover color green. So if I hover over a tag, it becomes green. Can you observe it? Isn't it? So this is how hover works. Okay, and then the yellow part, can you see? I have not released the button now. I am still pressing it. That's why this part is known as the active part. Once I release it, it will become visited. So it became blue. In the same way, the link B is red in color. When I hover over it, it is green. When I press it, it is yellow. And when I lift it, it is blue. Okay. First link, then hover, then not visited. No, link, visited, hover, and active. Okay, but I am saying the order in which we are working. First the link is red. When you hover over it, it becomes green. When we press on it, it becomes active, and then when we release it, it is visited. Okay, but you need to observe this order. Okay, link, visited, hover, and active. Okay, we should not write active at the beginning. Okay, this is the order we'll see. Okay, then okay, so that's the basic CSS. Now we will see some problems that we may face. Okay, so I have given a active yellow, and if I write one more line, a active color pink. Now we have added two similar styling declarations. Okay, now which one will be applied? The question is which one will be applied. Okay, so in this situation what happens, no, in whatever element we are applying, let it be anchor tag, let it be body, let it be whatever, the style that is used most recently, that is at the last, most recently which is used, that will be applied. So what is happening here is actually first this thing is applied, and then this thing is overriding the other one, previous one. Okay, so if you see now, the active color will be pink. Okay, it's not working. Okay, we'll see with the p tags. See, the h1 font size 42px was used, but after that for font size 53px was used. So which one is the most recently used? That is 53. So that is being applied. It didn't work in the anchor tag because here we have a order. In this order only it will work. First the link, the visited, and then the hovered, and then the active, and it will not take anything other than this. That's why it didn't work on it. Okay, so these are the things. Now we'll go to the third part. That is, till now we have learned inline css, internal style sheet, and we will use the external style sheet now. Okay, so in external style sheet, what the main advantage of external style sheet is, first thing is, what do we do in external style sheet? Here what we are having, in the same HTML page we are having the styles, isn't it? We are having the CSS in the same HTML file. But in external style sheet what we do, we keep this, we don't write any styling in the HTML page because it doesn't look nice. Okay, so what we do, we create another CSS file and we import that CSS file here. Okay, so when we import the CSS file, whatever styles are written there, it will be applied to this HTML page. Okay, so we'll create a new file. So let's name this thing as where is this page first thing? Okay, inside my website only it is there. We'll make a file like styles.css. Okay, we'll save this file, and in this file what we'll do, we'll copy the whole styles whatever we wrote here. Okay, from here we'll cut out all the styles. We won't write any styles here. Okay, cut out all the styles and put it here. Okay, now how to import it? Okay, how to import that CSS file into the HTML file? So in the head tag, we already have the head tag. In the head tag, we have to write a line which is link rel equal to style sheet, and then the href. Href means the location of the style sheet file, okay, the css file, and then type equal to text or css. So let's do this. We'll go to the html file, we'll remove the style tag, we'll write link rel equal to style sheet, and then href equal to, now this assignment.html and styles.css are in the same folder, so we just need to specify the name styles.css, and then type equal to text slash css. Okay, so now let's see who's working on. So the styles are being applied. Okay, for now I will remove the this link line. If you see it is working or not, if I remove it, no styles are being applied. Okay, but when I add the link rel equal to style sheet line, the styles will all automatically be applied, okay, from that external style sheet. So this is also one way of using the styles, and this is the best way actually. Okay, if we don't external style sheet, yeah, this is actually the best way to write styles. We'll write the class and all here because these are important, but those styles, if possible, we shouldn't write it in the same file. Okay, if there is only one file, then there is no problem, but when we have a website, when we have so many pages, we won't write the same styles again and again, isn't it? We'll use some external style sheet and use it everywhere, isn't it? In a web page, in the home, we have the home page, we have the about us page, we have the contact us page, but in all the three pages the heading color is same, the heading style is same, isn't it? If there is underline on home page, there will be underline on about us page also, isn't it? So we won't write the same styles again and again in the head tag. What we'll do, we'll create an external style sheet and we'll import it in all the pages. So what will happen, the same styles will be applied to all the pages. Okay, okay, till now we'll again have a break of 10 minutes. You just practice this. So now what we need to do, you will use the descendant selector. How we use when we have nested elements, how do we style the nested elements? Okay, and then the links, hover, visited, and all those things, and then external style sheet. Okay, you just practice these three things and then we'll see some extra thing. Actually css is over, but we'll see some extra things, like now we have the descendant selector, then we have some other selectors also. We'll see those things. We'll refer to w3 schools and just see one by one. Okay, okay then. Okay, so let's proceed further. So till now what we have done, we have done the links, and then we saw some css combinators, that is how to combine css styles for more than one element. Okay, if we use comma, then we can use apply the styles to more than one element. Okay, and we also saw the descendant selector. Okay, so in descendant selector what we are doing, we are, suppose a p tag is a child of a div tag, then we write div space p, and then we apply the styles. So whatever styles is there, it is applied to the p tag which is the child of div tag. Okay, so we'll see some more. These are known as Css Combinators. So what does it do? It combines the yeah, in a the different styles into one simple selector. Okay, so let's see one more we have, that is the child selector. Okay, now this child selector, how this works, we'll see. Okay, so in this example only I will change the code. So now we have some p tags here and some other p tags which are inside div. Okay, so I want the styles to be applied only to those p tags which are the child of div, not to the other p tags which are lying just here. Okay, so in the styles, what I'll do, I'll use something like this. Okay, div and this. So, and what about the other p tags? In the other p tags we have font blue, font yellow, font red. Okay, red, blue and yellow are there. So we'll use some other color. Okay, let it be pink. Then what happens? Nothing changed, but it worked. Okay, if it didn't work, okay, we can change the color. So what I'll do, I'll put it orange. See, these three p tags, the color changed. Okay, the font color changed. So why it changed? Because we used this selector. This is known as the child selector. So what does it mean? It will the color of the font will change to orange of all the p tags which are the child of div. Okay, so this is one selector, and then we have adjacent sibling selector. So now we know the parent and child. Now what are siblings? Siblings are, if I have one brother and one sister, so these two are my siblings. I am their sibling. She is my sibling. Okay, we are all siblings of each other. Okay, so in this example, uh, I'll create another div tag. Okay, div, inside div, I'll put, I won't use the p again and again. Okay, it will confuse. So I'll make some other things. I'll make span. In one span, I will have apple, have mango, and banana. Okay, now these three spans are siblings of each other, and div is their parent. And one more thing, all these spans are div's child. Okay, they're children. Okay, so now the sibling selector is, they said, this syntax. Okay, if I write something like this, div plus span background color yellow. Now what will happen? All the span, okay, sorry, I did a mistake here. I'll give one as one as p. Okay, one as span, one as, okay, this is enough. So what I'll write p plus span. So all the p tags that are all the p tags which are siblings of span. Okay, so in the code, if you see all the p tags, that is, there is only one p tag which is a sibling of span. Okay, these p, I have written that the background color should be yellow for all the p tags which are siblings of span. Now the background color of other p will not be changed because those are not siblings of span. Okay, we don't have span after this p, we don't have span after this p. Okay, so let's save this and see only this wait. What did I write here? The p apple span. What is the wrong here? Okay. This is not the sibling selector, actually this is the adjacent sibling selector. So adjacent sibling selector means the span tag which is the immediately next to the p. Okay, so here what is happening, the span tag which is the immediately next present to the p tag will be yellow, the background color will be yellow. So if you see the other here, if I put one span here, if I write not yellow, okay, this span, in this span the color won't be changed. Okay, but in this span the color changed. Why? Because here in the code we have written p plus span. So the span which is immediately next to a p element. Okay, so in other cases we have a span but it is not immediately after a p tag, so that's why the color is not applied there. Okay, so it will only be applied to mango, it is not applied to banana. In this div here, here if I put p, then it will be changed. You see, now it is changed because there one p is there. Okay, now if I write span plus span, now the second span will also be changed. Why? Because we said that all the spans, the next span after the previous span will be yellow. So now if you see, banana also got yellow. Okay, so this is one of the combinators. And then we have some other like general sibling selector. So this one is the general sibling selector selects all elements that are siblings of a specified element. So how this will work? If we already have adjacent selector, adjacent things, right? Like these are general siblings. These are general sibling to each other. Okay, so they're saying here. Okay, so now if I write h1, h1, h1 and this symbol and then p. If I write something here, background color red, now what will happen? See, all this got the background color red. What we had written here in the code, we had written h1, this symbol, this is known as tilde, and then p. So what it is doing, it is changing the background color of all the p that are siblings of h1. If you see here, all these p are siblings of h1. It is also the siblings of h2, isn't it? So that means if I write here h2, then also this will be applied. No change, that means it is applied. Okay, so that is known as general sibling selector. We have adjacent sibling selector, which means it will only change the color, change the style of the next one, immediately adjacent. Okay, and we have the general sibling selector, so it will change the css of all the siblings. Okay, so like this there are a lot of selectors. Okay, so I'll show you some more examples, like okay, suppose we have a span tag. Inside this span, and this span is having a class. Span and class is suppose high, and we have another span that is having class hello. Okay, so now see, in this page there are so many spans, isn't it? But I want only this span with class high to have some style. Okay, what we can write, we can write dot high and apply that style, isn't it? If we write dot high and then write background color blue, it will be applied to it, isn't it? And if we write dot hello and apply it, it will be applied. That is simple. But suppose I have this class which is already present on the page, font blue, and if that class is present here, I can't write font blue and something. If I do that, it will again change the other styles, because dot font blue is already there in the css file, isn't it? But I want to change something of this span tag, okay, without changing the font blue class. Suppose I want this span to have font size 40px, okay, but I don't want to change the font blue class. Okay, and also I can't write span font size 50px. If I do that, it will change the font size of other span also, isn't it? Understood? So in this case, what I can do, I can do something like this: span dot high, no space. Okay, if you give space, it won't work. If you give space here, then it will say that high is a descendant of span. Okay, we don't want that. We want span dot high. That means, suppose I give background color white. So what does this statement mean? It means select the span which has class high and apply these styles. Okay, this will not affect the other classes, isn't it? So now first thing we need to check what class we are having in this span. It is having font blue, isn't it? Font blue. So I have to write here, instead of high I will write font blue. Select the span with class font blue and apply this style. Save. Also I save it and run it. You see the high has become white, isn't it? We didn't change the span. Other spans are okay, it is not changed. These were the spans, they are also not changed, and the font blue class also we didn't change it. Okay, this is one way to do it. Now again we have hello class. So span dot hello, if we write span dot hello, and if we write here background color pink and save it, the hello it got changed. Okay, this is one of them. And then we can also use class here. We can use id also, id equal to hello. Then what we will write here, instead of dot hash. So if I write like this, then also it is working. Okay, that's fine. So any doubts here? You need to practice this once. Okay, so
I want stop background color up to the text only. I want stop color background color up to the text only.
Up to that text means, for example,
I want apply style name India. It is getting totally complete with taking.
That is because it is a block level element. Okay, so see here, I'll show you in this. See, these are p tags. P tags are block level elements. They occupy the whole width of the web page. So what saying? So p is a block level element. That's why it takes the whole width of the display. Now span tags are not block level elements, they are inline elements. That's why they don't take the whole width, it will only take the space occupied by the text. So instead of p we can use span. Okay, and there are some other things like, we'll go into it. There was a cat, the first statement. Okay, here if I apply another class, we can use more than one class in one element also. Okay, we used font blue here, we can use another class called abc. We have to give a space and then we can use abc. Now in this abc we can write some other styles. So what I will do here, dot abc, it is a class, so we'll write dot abc, and then we'll write display inline block. If I do like this, what will happen? The p tag, but the p tag is by default a block level element. Now it will become a inline element. See, okay. So if they ask how to change a block level element into inline element, what will you say? You will say you will use the CSS property display and we'll use the value inline block. Okay.
Can I give width?
Yes.
It will change.
Yes, we can use apply width also. If you apply width 500 px only, okay, give that much width. Okay, so now you do one thing. What are the things that we need to observe? That is the selectors, the CSS combinator, the descendant combinator, child selector, adjacent sibling, general sibling, and the class and ID what I showed you. Those, just practice those things now. Once you complete it, then we'll move further. Okay, for descendant we use space, for child we'll use greater than symbol. For adjacent sibling, adjacent means just next to it, for that we'll use plus. And then for general sibling, to select all the siblings, we'll use tilde. Okay, so we'll pause now and then we'll again continue. Okay, so let's resume. So hope everyone understood the CSS combinators. So now we will go through a new concept called CSS Box Model. Okay, so what is this CSS Box Model? So here the very first line, it is saying that all HTML elements can be considered as boxes. You can see all HTML elements can be considered as boxes. So that means here in CSS we have a box structure. Okay, this is known as box model. So every element we write, whether it is h1, p, span, whatever element we write, div, everything, imagine that everything is a box. Okay, now what is inside that box? Let's see that. Okay, every element has something inside it. Okay, so if you see this structure, do you see this? At the outermost part there is a margin, then border, then padding, then content. So every element looks like this. Actually we don't see all these things, but it is present. Okay, and this dotted line, do you see one dotted line? Yes. That is known as outline. We'll see that later on. First let's clear the concept. What is margin, what is border, what is padding, what is content. Okay, so we'll create a file. Okay, we'll continue with the same file. I create a div, and inside that div I'll have another div. Okay, give id equal to, this will be the main box. Okay, we have a main, id equal to child1, and make this parent, and make this child2. Okay, now I will apply styles to this. We are using id, so we will use hash parent. This will have border on px solid. border child 2 of border on px solid blue. Okay, so let's see how this looks like. Okay, I'll give some height. Okay, now see, the parent is this one, the whole div. Okay, here the border is overlapping, isn't it? The black and red, the black is the parent. Okay, the parent div, inside the parent div we have two divs, one is red, one is blue. Now this is known as the border. This black one which is coming up to below, it is actually the whole thing, isn't it? Are you able to understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the border of parent div. This red color border is the parent border of child 1, and blue color border is the border of child 2. Okay, so now in the W3 schools we have seen that we have a thing called margin. Okay, now let's see what happens when we apply margin. So to the parent element, okay, to the child element, child 1, that is the red box, to the child 1 I will apply margin 10 px. Okay, did you see what happened? The red box came inside, isn't it? It is still the child of div, what it is called, parent. The parent div. Okay, the parent contains both the divs, red and the blue, but when we apply margin, the child 1, that is the red box, got a margin of 10 px from all sides, top, bottom, left, right. Okay, now but the margin, where is the margin? Where is the margin? Is outside the border, isn't it? Outside the red border. We didn't do anything to the parent. See, in the styles, if you see, we didn't apply any border to the parent. We applied the margin to the child 1. Okay, so the child 1 got the margin. After getting the margin is actually outside the border. Okay, isn't it? This is child 1's margin, not child 2 or parent's margin. So that's what we saw here. If you see here, the margin is outside the border. Did you see? The margin is outside the border. Now we will see what is padding. So if I apply padding, I will apply the padding to, suppose, parent element. In the parent, if I use padding 10 px, what happens? Let's see. Did you see? The gap became more, isn't it? So this gap is actually what? Padding plus margin of first box. Okay. Here you can see in the blue box below, here there is a gap. This gap is actually padding of parent, not the child. Padding will be inside the border, yeah. Padding will be always inside the border and margin will be always outside the border. Okay, are you understanding this part? So if you inspect this part,
border is black color.
Border is black color. Okay, so if you inspect this part, you will see this is too big. Can you see the whole parent? There is a green thing inside the border of the main parent. That is called the padding. Okay, padding will be always inside border. Now if I go to child 1, there is a orange pink color thing that is outside the border. That is the margin. Okay, you need to understand this thing. Margin will be always outside the border and padding will be always inside the border. Okay, now okay, now here we have the padding and there is one more thing that is called content. So now we are not having any content in this div, so we will see an example where we have the content also. Okay, so I'll create a div, okay, I'll write content. Now see what happens here. If you see, I will remove the previous one. Okay, for now I will comment it and then we'll see. For now I will cut it. See this box below. Okay, if I remove the padding, what happens? This is the box. Can you see below? The box is the content box. It is having some text in it. That is, we call it content. Okay, now that content is having no padding. Okay, when we don't have padding, the borders will be sticking to the content always. If we add padding, the gap will increase. Okay, so when we increase the padding, the distance between the border and the content will be increased. Okay, so if I add some padding 10px, then what happens? A padding of 10px is added inside the border. Okay, now if I have another div just below it, content 2, I'll add content 2 and here what I'll do, hash content 2. Here I'll apply margin. Okay, margin 10 px. Okay, now see what happens. Okay, I forgot the border. Okay, see this. Now what is happening? We applied padding to the first div. What happened when we increase the padding? The distance between the content and the border increased. Okay, but in the second case we are not adding the padding. That's why what happened? There is no gap between the border and the content. Okay, now by default, if I don't apply the margin to the second box, how does it look like? It sticks to the first one, isn't it? The borders of both the div are overlapping. But when I apply this margin to the second div, what happens? It is getting a margin from the top div, isn't it? So margin is what? Margin is the distance between two borders. Can you see? It is the distance, it is the gap outside the border. But in the first case, the padding is inside the border, and in the second case, margin is outside the border. Okay, so suppose we need to design something. We have two divs. We want to create a gap between these two. What we will apply? Margin or padding? Margin, isn't it? If inside the box we need to increase gap, then we will add padding. Okay, that is the main concept. So now what we have got? We have got the border, we have got a margin, we have got the padding and the content. Okay, suppose if someone tells you create a div in which the content should be 10 px away from its border, then what we will add? Content should be away from 20 px away from the border, then what we will add? Padding. Okay, but if someone says two divs should be 50 px apart, that means we'll use margin. Okay, so this is the example. So here we got the margin, we got the padding, we got the border and the content. Okay, border means that goes around the padding and content, and margin clears an area outside the border. Okay, okay, that's how the box model works. So you need to practice some things like so you can do one thing, you can practice one thing now. Create divs like tiles, 1 2 3 squares. Okay, 1 2 3 1 2 3, total 6. I'll draw in paint. Nah, that will be better. So like this, make 6 divs and this is what? This is margin or padding? Margin, because it is outside the border. Okay, this margin, make it 20px. okay, 20px margin should be there in all the boxes, and write something inside the what it is called, box. Write something inside the box, something, and this padding should be 30px. okay, so you create this thing, then only this margin and padding will be clear. okay, once these things are clear, then we'll go forward. Okay, then hello. Okay, I will do one thing. I will change the I'll change the design what you need to draw. Do something like this: 1 div, 2 div, and 3 div. okay, now you write something inside, put some content inside, and then make this margin, and inside this add the paddings. okay, put some content inside. Here we'll have some content, here also we'll have some content, and here also we'll have some content. So here the margin should be 20px, and here padding also should be 20px. okay, okay, then okay, so now as the margin and padding is clear, so we will go to another topic called, actually the topic is how do we convert the block level elements into inline elements. okay, so first we'll see what are the specialty of block level elements and inline elements. So let's see. We have a div and we have a span. What happens here? Let's see. Alright, this is div and this is span. We'll apply some border to it. Okay, so so let's see how it looks like. So we have seen then there is a div and a span. So what is the difference between the div and a span? As you can see, Div is a block level element. That's why it occupies the whole width of the browser. Okay, the viewport, the display, whatever we are having, it will occupy the whole width. Okay, and inline elements, what it will do, it will only occupy the width of the content it has. Okay, div, even if has a little content inside it will anyhow take the whole width. Okay, but in span what happens, if the content is small, the width will be less. If the content is big, it will be more. So if I see here, the content is span, that's why it is taking small space. If I make it something like this, it will take that amount of space only. Okay, it will take a bigger space, but it will be limited to the content only. Okay, now the thing is, if I want 6 divs side by side, okay, so what happens if I copy this div and put it like this, sorry, okay, now we have, after the span we have 1 2 3 4 5 divs. Okay, if I save this and run it, what happens, we are getting the divs one after the another, we are not getting it side by side. Okay, so what and what appears side by side, those are inline elements, isn't it? Only inline elements will appear side by side, other block elements will always be always occupy the whole width. Now how to convert these block level elements into inline elements? Only then we will be able to display the divs side by side, isn't it? Otherwise we can't display it. Otherwise it will always come in a whole line, isn't it? It won't come side by side. So for that we have a CSS property called display. In that display we have a value called inline block. Okay, so what I'll do to these divs, I'll apply another style, that is, in the div style I will add another thing that is called display inline block. If I write this line, what happens, the divs will be converted into
Side by side.
inline elements. The block level elements will be converted into inline elements. So if you see, the divs have become inline now. Can you see? Is it clear? The divs are coming side by side. And now you can use margin, padding, whatever you want. Okay. Now by default what is happening? There is a gap between the two divs, isn't it? So by default there is a margin, some 10px or 8px, whatever it is, some margin is there. But if we apply 20px, 30px, then it will increase. So if I go to the code and I write here margin 20px, this gap will be increased. Can you see? The padding and the margin increased. Okay. So in this way the block level elements can be converted into inline elements. Okay. Well, that's the thing. Okay, fine. So now what you have to do, you have to create that 6 boxes. Okay, you put the margin same everywhere. The margin is 20, padding 50 all over the boxes, and you make it using display inline block, because if you don't use display inline block, that thing won't happen. It will come one after the other. Okay. And what else is left? If you write display none, it will disappear. Okay. Okay, that is enough for today. So what we have to create is, we have to create you create 6 boxes like this, and you put some content inside and apply margin and padding. Okay.
The same for last two.
Same like the last one, but here you will be using inline block. Along with proper margin and padding. Okay.
Can you show me that one inline block, how where we apply it?
Okay, so this is the thing you need to make. So whatever the div is, suppose this is the div, this is the div. So inside this I have added an ID, and then I have used display inline block. If you don't use the display inline block, it will come one by one like this, div, and if I use inline block, it will come side by side like this.
Inline block will for coming side by side.
To make the block level elements into inline elements, we use
previous assignment also we put inline block, it will come by side.
Yes.
Elements classified into 2 types.
Okay.
HTML elements.
Okay then.
Block level elements.
We can end the class here for today.